Hello, everybody. Welcome to Oversteer episode 71. No, 70, episode 70. Oh my God. I almost messed up my own numbering of the episodes. I'm Dimitris Bizas. For those who may not know me, because of course we will have some new listeners due to the guest we have today. I am a Greek motorsport journalist. I work for Current Driver Greece. This is the podcast I host, and with me today is someone that I actually first talked to 2 weeks ago. He's a colleague, he's British, he's Ed Spencer. Ed, welcome.
Thank you, Demetrius. Pleasure to be here. It's good to be invited onto the podcast after really knowing you for 2 weeks, where we've been on Twitter Spaces communicating about the sport we love, and it's a pleasure to be here.
I mean, I always grab a chance to speak with whoever has knowledge of the sport, and I believe that has similar views with mine, not necessarily agreeing with me, but seeing the sport with the same passion and being so how can I say it, respectful to it, because there are a lot of aggressive opinions out there and radical opinions out there. Would you like to tell the audience what you do for a living? Where can we find you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm, as Spencer, and I work for MotorLAT and Inside F2, and I write about Formula 1 and Formula 2, and I'm pretty much working nearly every Grand Prix weekend, like most people in the media. And you can find me on @EdSpencer99 on Twitter, and if you wish to follow me on Instagram, it's @Ed_Spencer99. I've been in this game for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, depending on my memory, and I'm still relatively a rookie to this game, but this season's been a great year to get involved in, especially considering the fact we have such a close title fight between Verstappen and Hamilton.
Out of curiosity, have you studied journalism?
Yes, sports journalism for 3 years at the University of Chester.
Oh, okay. So you're a pro. Yeah. You're
Sort of.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have 10 years in that field, so 5 years as a pro. I studied journalism too in Greece. Haven't finished, actually. I have a few courses left. But yeah, I mean, as Ed said, we firstly met / interacted on Twitter Spaces that other really knowledgeable people hosting on Twitter, especially Peter from F1 US, who may or may not be in a future episode. That's a little hint, a little teaser. And yeah, we of course talked about Max versus Lewis, the whole situation this year with the championship battle, which, to be honest, is by far the most exciting and interesting in the hybrid era of the sport. I think we all agree with that. Don't know your opinion, Ed.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with you, Demetrius. I think there has been good title fights in the past in the hybrid era, 2016, for example, but we've never had a title fight like this where it's so intense and it's between two very different drivers and two very different teams who have been almost, how would I put this in words? The championship has almost been a bit like a seesaw in terms of the momentum. 1 minute it's on Verstappen's side, next minute it's on Hamilton's side, and that's really kept the fight spicy and interesting, knowing that you never know what you're going to get because, Red Bull, before coming into this year, looked like they may win 3-4 Grand Prix. Now you go to every race and they have a good chance of winning, which for some time we haven't had. So I think that's why people, are so in love with this fight, and it's so good to have so many new fans tuning in for their first season, and they have this brilliant fight between two great drivers who will not give an inch and are racing, relatively clean, although hard as well. And it's good for the sport because it's what I would think Liberty Media needed when they've taken over the sport, and also for the fact that last year everyone was indoors during the pandemic, so no one could go to the races. But now we have full crowds back. It just feels extra special knowing that we have this fight and that people can watch it in not just at home but in the stands as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that after a pretty horrendous year last year, we not only we are enjoying a pretty close title fight, we also see an upturn in terms of revenue for the sport, which means that it's more viable for Liberty to stay and for teams to expand and maybe try to become better and better with the cost cap helping them. We're in a good situation, and the title fight really helps in terms of engagement and interaction with fans, which is also really interesting and important, of course, for the sport. I mean, if we don't have fans in football stands, it's really weird. It's silent. In motorsport, it's not like that. But the fans in the grandstands at the tracks is a wonderful sight in terms of their reaction to an overtake or a sudden change of positions or an accident or whatnot. They help, especially not when you cut a fight in the middle to show the spectators' reaction. That's not cool.
Let's not mention Monaco with Strollgate as well.
Monaco and Qatar, yeah.
Oh god, yeah, that was bizarre.
But in terms of the actual, on track fighting and all that, the Verstappen versus Hamilton versus Verstappen, as a driver fight, has been fairly respectful, I would say, but the pettiness on the team's side is what really gets me sometimes. I don't, because I can't with it anymore. In some occasions, I just want the season to end so we don't have any other, Christian Horner said this and Toto Wolff said that. And what's your opinion on that? Meaning that the drivers keep it on relatively good terms, but the team principals are guns blazing every weekend.
I mean, it's the trash talk is part and parcel of Formula One at times, and Horner and Wolff have been taking shots at each other all season long. But it is getting a little bit frustrating for me because Max and Lewis, they've crashed a couple of times, and they nearly crashed again in Brazil. But there seems to be a level of respect for one another when it comes to press conferences or after the race. They're not, throwing hands in Parc Fermé. They're very respectful of each other, and that's the kind of thing we like. But Toto Wolff and Christian Horner, they're acting. I mean, they're acting just bizarre. They're just acting like children at times, and it's annoying to see these two very cool customers just exchange shots with each other in the media. I want to see, a level of respect there in and out of the car. And if the team principals can't do that, then that's worrying. I read recently Matthias Lauda as comments, and he finds it rather annoying that they're squabbling Toto and Christian. So I think, it's good for media, for the media side, and it's good for, creating a narrative, but I really wish they would just, tone it down because their drivers respect each other. Okay, they don't always agree on what happens on track, but they have a level of respect for each other. Christian and Toto, unfortunately, whether it's, trying to get one up on each other or, trying to put another under pressure, I'm not keen on it. I respect them both as team principals, but I think there needs to be something said into their ears saying, come on, we've got to stop this now. The title fight's getting so good. We don't want you guys sort of, acting rather petty in the media. But it's all part of the mind games. They've done it for years in Formula One. I think Ron Dennis was one of the best at it. So was the likes of Briatore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the first time we've seen that, but most likely you will find drivers being a bit petty and throwing some shade sometimes. Actually, both Lewis and Max gave some interviews this past week, and they kind of mentioned how they are different from each other, but not actually saying it. Max said that I keep friends from my childhood and they keep me honest, and I think that you have to surround yourself with people that tell you the truth. Lewis said that I was raised to show respect on track and win fairly and be one of the pure drivers, of the purest drivers out there. This kind of back and forth, which is not actually back and forth, is more like, oh, look at me, I'm better because I do this, or I'm more fair because I do that. That's understandable at one up until one point. The Wolf versus Horner, excuse me, digs and all this I wouldn't kiss you know rear end Wolf's rear end or something like that. I don't want to do that episode to mark that episode as explicit. Please don't mark this episode as explicit on Apple Podcast. Yeah, but yeah, that's not cool. And speaking about the title fight, I mean, on track, we've had three occasions which, up until that point, we have two Grand Prix left, have been pretty not only important, but have been turning points in the championship. The Silverstone crash, the Monza crash, and the Interlagos almost overtake slash almost crash. And many people said that this is Verstappen's making. He is very aggressive. He tries to push the boundaries. He doesn't show the amount of respect that he should, especially against his title rival and all that sort of thing. I want your take on that because I've expressed myself multiple times. I said Verstappen is aggressive, but he's that kind of aggressive that you can't see in other series, especially karts. F1 is not karts, but he's a guy that has really skipped some steps coming up to the ladder and coming to Formula One. He raced little to no single seaters, only one season in Formula 3, but lots and lots and lots of years of karting. So he does have that kind of racing. How do you see Verstappen versus Hamilton in terms of their behavior on track?
I think the way I see it is, if we switch the positions around, let's say Max did to Lewis what Lewis did to Max at Silverstone, or vice versa at Monza and Sao Paulo, I'd be looking at the instance in the exact same manner. I think the fact of the matter is, whether it's Hamilton or Schumacher or Latifi or Ocon, no driver would give an inch. No one's going to give up that position easily. And I think that's what Verstappen and Hamilton have done in those three incidents. Whether you have differing views on it is entirely up to you, and it's your opinion. But for me, I think it is hard racing. It's clean and hard. It's hard racing. I wouldn't say Interlagos was particularly clean, but I feel that, I think Lewis would have done the same thing if he'd been in Max's position and vice versa. I think, unfortunately, it's hard to really assess with these two, because with these two drivers, they're very hard chargers, but they're also very respectful. But at times they do kind of break the code of conduct as a driver. But again, they've been taught for years, don't give up that position easy. You always fight it. And that's what they're both doing. And I don't blame them. They've both been, they've been fairly close on track. And I can also bring up another flashpoint, the Silverstone sprint race, where they were, really close to touching then. And then France as well. Max made that race-winning move on Lewis after, Red Bull made a very bold strategy call. But I think, for me, it's never been a case of, this guy's dirty or this guy's dirty. I think it's at times got a bit risque. and a bit below the belt, but I wouldn't say it's dirty racing. I don't think they deliberately take each other off. I don't think that's in their opera operandi. That, I'm going to take Lewis out, or in Max's case, in Lewis's case, I'm going to take Max out. That's not their driving style. That's not the way they've been taught to race when they were kids in go-karts. So I just think it's a case that they are clean, albeit hard racers, and that's how they're going to race till the checker flag in Yas Marina.
Hard racing, yeah, versus maybe unfair racing. Sometimes it's difficult to differentiate for us, not for them. They are on top of things, or we hope they are. They seem to have found a balance, and the Silverstone crash, I think, it's one of the most important things this year, things that happened this year, not only because of the magnitude of the crash or the fact that Max had to go to the hospital or whatnot. It's the points that Max lost and Lewis gained. Is the fact that I haven't seen Hamilton celebrate alone in his country. Not a lot of people liked the way he raced in that situation. They felt like it's a bit of unfair and that the penalty he took was not appropriate. Maybe he should have been penalized a bit harder. And
I was just going to say, I would say the penalty was a little bit, for me, I think it should have been a 10-second stop-go penalty, but I think that should be applying to all drivers. Because the 10-second time penalty for me is a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card. You can serve it, you'll stop, no issues, and you're back in the race. With 10-second stop-go, you have to serve it later on, and you actually, in my view, you actually get punished for what you've done. Because we've seen lesser incidents get 10-second, 5-second stop-go penalties in the past.
Yeah.
Yet this one wasn't, and this isn't a criticism of Lewis or Max, but they should not have penalties that they can use as get out of jail free cards. That's not the spirit of racing. If you take another driver off the track, or you do something that's against the rules, you should be forced to serve that penalty during your own race, not when the team brings you in to serve your pit stop. For me, that's not right. And I think with the way Lewis celebrated, I think the adrenaline was running through his veins. He just won his home Grand Prix, a crucial race in the championship. He had to fight hard when, I think Charles Leclerc pretty much had that race wrapped up with a bow until he slid off the road. And really, I think Charles probably was, the deserving winner of that race, albeit Hamilton's drive was very impressive. I served that time penalty. But I think really we have to look. I think the penalty didn't fit the crime in the same way Verstappen's penalty for Sochi didn't serve the crime. I think because of the fact that Red Bull knew they could just chuck a new power unit in and he wouldn't have to be docked 3 places anyway. He wouldn't be able to serve the 3 place grid penalty anyway because he would be at the back. But, that's the subject for another day.
Yeah, of course, the penalty situation and the whole stewards decision making and all that, it's a whole other episode topic, and it could be discussed upon for hours and hours, but we wouldn't have a definite maybe conclusion. Coming off the whole controversy, we've seen some pretty unique racing displays from both of them this year. I would argue that the best race that Lewis had was in Sao Paulo. Not a controversial verdict, I know. And the best race that Max had was in France or Zandvoort. I'm not sure. Could be both. And to my view, whoever gets the championship will be the most deserving champion of F1 of all time. He will have defeated in Max's case, he will have defeated a 7-time world champion. a proved winner, a man who has tons of talent and determination and racecraft. In Lewis's case, he will have been crowned a champion in a year that arguably the most talented young driver in the field right now against one of the most well-equipped teams. He took the championship from them, and in a car that was not the fastest in any point of the season and up until maybe the last 2 or 3 races. And the second, the driver who will get second position in the championship will be the best P2 driver of all time, just because he will have lost from a very deserving component. So, seeing that we'll go to Jeddah and Abu Dhabi right now, do we believe that whoever wins that championship will absolutely deserve it? Or is it something that I only think about and other people say, oh no, Lewis deserves it more or Max deserves it more? Can we say that for this year?
Yes, I do think so. I think they've both worked hard for it. They've not had it handed to them on a plate. They've both driven their hearts out. And, you know, these two are worthy winners in my eyes. And whoever finishes second can look back on this year with fondness. Yeah, they may have lost a championship, but they gave it a good old go. And with Max, you know, he has waited for so long to have a car like this where he can actually fight with the Mercedes juggernaut, and he's driven amazingly well. That run he had from Monte Carlo to the second Austria was insane. Like he should have had 5 race wins in a row, but obviously we know what happened in Baku. And he's up his game another level, you know, this year. I think he's a lot more mature. Okay, at times he has sometimes lost his head, but for me, he's been outstanding. Whilst Hamilton has picked himself up after a really, I would say, mixed first half of the season, because, yeah, he had that good run from Bahrain to Spain, but then at times he went invisible in Monaco, Baku. You know, he lost an easy win, which effectively was an open goal, and he just had to kick it. But obviously, we know what happened there. And you know, he's fought tremendously well to get in this fight, give Max a real challenge, because of the fact that I think many people, including myself, coming into Silverstone thought this could be, you know, Max's year. And Hamilton has not given up. Hamilton has fought hard to be back in the title fights, and he is, you know, again showing why he's one of the best drivers to have ever, you know, driven a Grand Prix car. So they're both worthy winners. They can both look back on this year with happiness, knowing that, you know, they may have not won the championship, but they gave it a good old go. And for me, you know, if we could give them joint championship, I would. But obviously, I think we'd all like to see, you know, a winner being crowned, not joint champions.
I mean, imagine the war waged on Twitter and other social media if this happened.
Oh God, I could. I don't even want to think. I think the row would still go on till at least pre-season testing in Barcelona.
No. Until the end of time.
And end of time, yeah. But it's the same thing. Like, you know, can you imagine if Twitter had been around when Schumacher and Hill crashed into each other at Adelaide? They wouldn't have stopped going on about it. Or Senna Prost in Suzuka 1990, they wouldn't have stopped going on about it. It will go on till, at least from my eyes, pre-season testing, or until the checker flag falls in Yas Marina in 2022. So I think
until we have a new champion.
Yeah, they won't even. I mean, Leclerc or Russell can win their championship and they'd still be arguing over it. But I mean, it would be a fit. It would. Now that I think about it, it would be a very fitting end if they were both crowned joint champions, because they both deserve it. But obviously, the traditionalist in me would like to see a winner being crowned.
Yeah. one driver will be more deserving than the other, even by half a point. And I can't think of many seasons in F1's history that the driver who was crowned champion was not a deserving champion. But sometimes it's easier to get the championship than other times. Lewis was uh, Lewis had no real opponents after Nico Rosberg left. A bit with Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari, but never for a season long. They never had a season long battle. Of course, he has been in championship battles before. He lost one in 2007, won one in 2008, lost one in 2010. Of course, 2016. But it's the first time in a long time that we've seen something like that, and it's really nice. And coming to this two Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi, I think we're into the unknown, into the complete unknown, because okay, we have the data that suggests that since Jeddah is a very fast track with a lot of straights and the straight line speed will be important, maybe the Mercedes and by proxy Lewis Hamilton will be the favorites, having seen what they could do with the new ICE and the setup they have on the car. And maybe Abu Dhabi is a track that has previously suited Max and Red Bull, but now has a bit of a different layout in some corners, which will result in really quick laps around there, I believe 125s or something like that in qualifying. So who do you believe will have the upper hand coming to Jeddah and Abu Dhabi? Who has the potential to be champion going there? Of course, to remind our listeners, Max leads Lewis by 8 points, and of course could be crowned champion in Saudi Arabia, but it needs a very bad race from Lewis and a win or second place for Max. Could happen, but it's more difficult than other times. So to you, Ed, what's the feeling coming to the last two races?
Well, the feeling for me is that I would say Mercedes are favourites in Jeddah because they've saved the Sao Paulo power unit for this race in particular, and I believe also Yas Marina. They didn't bring that power unit in particular to Qatar. They saved it. But Honda are bringing something new to their power unit. So it's going to be close. It's going to be fairly tight between them both because of the fact that Honda are saving something, Mercedes is saving something. I would say Mercedes are probably favourites in Jeddah. But then when we get to Yas Marina, I would say Verstappen probably has just the advantage, but we don't really know how much the new layout is going to help or hinder Red Bull's car. So, I mean, yeah, it is 2 trips into the unknown because of the fact that we're going to one completely new circuit and one circuit has been dramatically altered since we were last there in December 2020. So it's going to be fairly close, I think. But I would say Hamilton will probably win in Jeddah because of the fact they're saving that power unit. But I think Red Bull could counter them at Abu Dhabi. So I think it's going to be 1-1 in that particular case. Sorry if I'm struggling to get my words out.
No, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, what I think will happen is the ultimate scenario for us. Lewis wins in Jeddah, gets the fastest lap, so he gets the point. Max finishes second, and we'll go level to Abu Dhabi, to Yas Marina circuit. That would be absolutely mega because whoever is on top of each other wins the championship. So it doesn't matter in which position you put them. Either Lewis or Max, if they are ahead of each other, one or the other will win the championship. And you can't have a scenario where they leave Abu Dhabi with the same amount of points unless they crash and they get no points. In which case, Max will be crowned champion because he will have more wins. But yeah, I do tend to agree that Jeddah is a Mercedes and Hamilton track as as we can speculate on the basis of them having the best straight line speed in the last couple of races and the best setup for these kind of situations. Abu Dhabi, I believe, will be a track that uh, even if it's not Mercedes or Red Bulls to take, they will both do the maximum, and this usually leads to extreme to extreme measures. Because Red Bull have endured a lot of failures with the DRS actuator because they tried to copy the Mercedes rear wing. They tried to run with lower downforce rear wing. They stretched the wing as much as they could to take as much drag as possible out of it. They failed, so they went back to the higher DF spec. So I believe that this will happen in Abu Dhabi as well. They will go beyond any other. I don't know. They will go beyond and above of what they have tried all season long. It's the last. It's the last race of this generation of cars, so it will be a proper send off. And it will be the best case scenario for all of us if it's decided in Abu Dhabi. I will be kind of bummed if I see if I see Lewis having an issue in Jeddah and Max wins the championship, because it will be quite anticlimactic. I do hope that it will happen fair and square. It will happen via results, performance, speed, all that stuff. No issues, no reliability issues, no accidents. Oh God, I hope we don't have any accidents. It will be, yeah.
Suzuka 90 intensifies.
No, my God, no, please, no.
No, I don't want that either. I want it to be. I'm like you. I want it to be one on the track, not in the steward's room or on the side of the track with one of the title contenders' engines in flames. That's what we don't want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that it's pretty weird that we are in that situation, because we have been in Abu Dhabi finales before in terms of who is going to win the championship. 2016 is the most recent, but we kind of knew that Nico will win the championship because he had a huge points advantage. He would need Lewis to be to win and Nico to be below fifth, I believe, or something like that. So it was not a really close title fight in terms of points. But now we are in a situation that we may have even a draw, a tie in terms of points going to Yas Marina. Have you seen the changes?
What do you mean changes?
The track layout changes.
I've seen little bits of them. I'm not entirely. I can't tell you them off by heart, but I know they've improved some of the track that at times was a little bit boring. Like, I believe they've changed the sections mostly in the first and second sector. So I think where their hairpin was previously, that the very slow hairpin, I think they've changed that, and also the rundown to the long straight after the chicane, that's been changed to be more of a fast right hand corner rather than the chicane section. So it's been altered, I believe, to improve the racing, because if you remember Alonso and Petrov in 2010, that dramatically changed the title race against Alonso. So I think they've done that to avoid a repeat of that happening.
Yeah, and they want to end this generation of cars with a, let's say, more interesting race than Abu Dhabi usually offers. That's why they pushed forward with these changes before the change of cars and the aerodynamics and all that. They wanted to see if it will work even with this kind of cars that are notoriously difficult to follow on close proximity. And yeah, I mean, we will see. I'm hopeful that we'll have two Grand Prix that will give us the excitement that we have been experiencing all season long. And the £1 million for you question is, who do you believe will win the championship?
Right, I've been asked this a couple of times on other podcasts and also by my next door neighbours. If I had to put £100 or €100 on at a bookies or a betting shop and say who do I think is going to win the championship, I would just put my money on Verstappen because I think he's got a little bit of a buffer going into Jeddah with, I believe it is, correct me if I'm wrong, 8 points the gap.
Yep.
Between him and Hamilton. So I think he's a little bit more comfortable in the fact that he doesn't have a gap to close, in the fact that he doesn't have to make up 8 points, whilst Hamilton does. And I think that, yes, Verstappen may not win in Jeddah, but he knows that he can still be level with Hamilton going into Yas Marina, and if the circuit suits the Red Bull car, he can go and win. So I think Verstappen will just about win it, but I would never count out Hamilton on this one. I could not do that because he's been in this situation so many times and he's ended up the winner. I mean, let's not forget 2008 when, with a lap to go, it looked like Massa was going to be champion, and then all of a sudden he's past Glock.
Yeah, he's been there and done that for sure.
As I said, been there, done that, got the T-shirt in a way, and the World Championship trophy, of course. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, he he has the receipts to prove his experience on that.
Definitely.
I will go on and say that Max will get it and then lose interest to the sport. It's a prediction on top of another prediction. Max will win, get the championship, grab that title. I agree by the most minuscule of margins. And of course, I do not count Lewis out as well. Quite opposite, actually. I do believe that they are on a 50-50 situation, but I get to say 51-49 in favor of Max in that situation right now. And then he will lose interest to the sport, because he gave me that weird Nico Rosberg vibe speaking to Jenny Gao for BBC, for the podcast that BBC Radio has on F1, that he's like, oh, one championship is enough. You've done it. You succeeded. You conquered the sport. Now what? It's okay. One is enough. And that's some Nico Rosberg, flashback of some sort. I don't think that he will win the championship and 5 days later at the FIA gala, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm fine. I'll leave." I don't think he will ever do it around the young age of 24, but he'll be more relaxed. Now he seems more aggressive because he's driven by that goal. The goal that he'll be the first Dutch champion of F1, the one of the youngest, not the youngest because Sebastian will hold that record for now, one of the youngest champions ever. He will have brought back Red Bull on top of the F1 world. He will be adored and admired as the Kingslayer, some sorts. And I don't know if that's fair or not.
My take on what you've said is that I think the way Verstappen will change his mindset after if he wins the championship this year, is that I think he'll be a lot more calmer knowing that he's done it. He's reached the zenith of his sport, and that the hard work that he put in his karting days and single seater days and also the days where he had, very little chance of winning races, or had a chance, but the equipment wasn't right. He's done it, and he doesn't have to worry about never winning a world championship. He never has to worry ever again because no one will be able to take it off him. As for whether his enthusiasm will change, I think he'll just be he'll be more relaxed about things. I don't think he will have the same amount of, I don't think he's worried about it anyway, but he doesn't have people saying, "Oh, you've never done this." I can't see him retiring just yet. I don't think he'll do what Kimi's done and have 20 odd years in Formula One. Far from it. I don't think there's a lot of drivers who I can see doing that for that long of time because of how intense the scheduling is, how intense the racing is, and how intense the training is. I can see Verstappen probably doing maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 more years, but will he do them at Red Bull? Possibly, because I think he would need to be seriously tempted to move away from that team that has really grown, that has really helped him grow into the driver he is today. But, let's look back 20 odd years ago. Michael Schumacher left to go to a Ferrari, a team that was stuttering and was struggling to win races regularly, and look what happened. So maybe Verstappen is looking at the next big challenge, and that's turning a team that hasn't won a championship for some time into winners again. So you never know with this sport.
Absolutely. And to close it off, what would the 8th title mean to Lewis? I mean, he will be the most accomplished, statistically accomplished driver of all time, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would. And I think for Hamilton, it's a case for Lewis and Mercedes. I think it's a case that they've now can't be touched for a long time, because I don't think there's going to be an 8-time world champion for some time now. And if he does do it, then he would have known that he would have realized that I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve and more, and then he can start thinking about the 9th championship, the 10th championship, which is unheard of when you think about it. Like, no one thought that Schumacher's records would be touched. I think he also had that feeling that, the odds were not always in my favour, but I managed to fall back and win that 8th championship, and I'm now statistically the greatest of all time. And I think he'll feel a great sense of satisfaction over that, because of at the time when he went to Mercedes, a lot of people were wondering, why are you leaving McLaren for a team that hasn't, that has won one race in 3 years? So I think he'll make him realise that, I think he knows it anyway, that the move was the right one, but he'll know that all the people who have said that, it's a wrong move have had to eat more than enough humble pie.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with Michael Schumacher. I adored him. I would never in a million years think that there would be any other driver to reach not only 7, but maybe 5 titles in my mind. Of course, Sebastian reached 4, and for a brief time we all thought that maybe if Red Bull gets it right with the new regulations, he could continue. They didn't get it right. He didn't continue with his winning ways, and it's too late for him now to potentially reach 7 or 8 titles. Well, I don't know, but I don't think Aston Martin will be that kind of car next year. And Lewis has done that. He has put the sport on a different level. He put the sport on the map of a lot of different people, not only in terms of interest, but also in terms of ethnicity, of racial background, of all that, which is more than the champion, which is actually more important than the championships themselves, because he takes the championships for himself. It's the accomplishments of himself as a driver. The other things that he's doing help the sport and help people around the sport.
I'd just like to add on to that. I think the way way Lewis has been over the past 24 months, he's made people in the sport think about how they deal with people, how they behave around other people of different cultures and races, and he's made the Formula One paddock think. Because before he arrived, and it still is really a predominantly white male dominated sport. But Hamilton has been the face of the sport in terms of racial equality, in terms of making people in the paddock, think about how they behave. And he's been a good ambassador to the sport as well. And he's brought a lot of communities who wouldn't normally be F1 fans into the sport. So his legacy will also be that he's been a great ambassador to sport in general, not just Formula One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So that's the end of it, of the podcast, not the world.
There's still time. There's still time for the world to end.
Yeah. We are on the edge of. We are just about seeing the end of the world. That hold on, people, do the best or the worst, and it will happen eventually. But the episode will stop now because we have to end it. I'm very happy that I had Ed today. Ed, thank you so much for coming by.
Pleasure.
I will have all of his social media links and stuff like that on the description of the podcast, wherever you choose to hear it, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Half-Tone.fm site. You will find them there. You will find my social media there too. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Not LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn. Who uses LinkedIn? But okay.
I do. I think everyone uses LinkedIn at some point.
I mean, for 10 minutes a day, maybe.
I use it all the time. For me, it's much because it's a good way to get your content out. But I know.
Yeah, true. I'm sorry. I've slandered the pure name of LinkedIn.
Don't worry about it. I think they probably get slandered all the time. I think it's normal. C'est normal.
I think they get slandered from Microsoft themselves that they bought them. So,
Very good.
But yeah, thank you Ed so much for coming by.
Pleasure.
We of course will be interacting on Twitter, of course, and the Twitter space sphere, if one can call it like that. And if you are new to the Oversteer podcast, it's a predominantly Greek show. Sorry for that. I'm Greek. I speak Greek. I can't help it. But I've had some really interesting guests in the past, and we will have some interesting guests in the future that are speaking English in that episode, and I have to speak English as well. So do check them out, and on the archive of the episodes and on every app you choose to hear us, you can find them. And that's it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next Monday after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where we might have a champion. I doubt, but we shall see. Have a great week, everybody, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.